to that conversation, Big Perk, is are we looking at Jokic as a top 5 player in the game? A lot of people don't, just because he hadn't had success once we got to the postseason. This guy ain't got out of the second round since he started winning MVPs.
I've never seen a disconnect like this where a guy monopolizes the MVP, and yet he floats in and out of my top 5 at like 5.
Yeah.
He's not in almost anyone's top 3. I've never seen anything like it.
This has got to be the most ridiculous take that I've ever heard about Nikola Jokic. Basically, the media is saying that Jokic is not a top 3 player, let alone a top 5 player in the league right now. Like, how is that even possible? Look, if you just do a quick Google search, you would see that Jokic is dominating the league statistically. I mean, he's number 1 when it comes to PER, offensive rating, and you can actually see his name floating around the top 5 of almost every advanced stat category. And if you're not an advanced stat kind of guy, he's almost averaging a triple-double season. And despite all this, whether it's about the numbers or the eye test, the media is still finding ways to disrespect the back-to-back MVP. I mean, with all these crazy takes on Jokic, man, it's starting to get really out of hand. See, this is just one prime example of how the media gets away with murder by disrespecting Jokic, time and time again. But today, I'm going to expose them by laying out not just numbers, but also cold hard facts to counter their most outrageous arguments about the greatness of Nikola Jokic. Buckle up, guys. This one is gonna get messy. Anyways, let's get the ball rolling with this guy right here.
No one can deny he is an excellent player. I have not denied he is an excellent player. However, I felt last year that he was being elevated to a place a step or two above where he actually was. Instead of excellent player, he was league MVP. And I thought last year, Chris Paul deserved it. Instead, Jokic got it. And then a great confluence of events. Chris Paul and Jokic play in the postseason. Chris Paul's unbelievable. They sweep the Nuggets, and Jokic gets kicked out of the final game. But I dealt with it. Guy who I thought should come in second came in first. It happened.
Nick Wright is one of these media figures that has been consistently discrediting Jokic over the years. And as you just heard, he's claiming that Chris Paul should have been the MVP 2 seasons ago. And I was like, okay. Now, he didn't stop there. No. Because he would then go on live TV and say,
look at those names. Does Chris Paul fit right in probably the lower half, but the middle-ish of those names? The answer is yes. Can we agree, and I know Nuggets fans are going to get mad at me, if Nikola Jokic wins the MVP, he's the worst player to win the MVP since Dave Cowens.
No.
Dave Cowens. I mean, no disrespect to Dave Cowens, but come on, he really had to stoop that low just to make his point. But thankfully, his co-anchor Chris Broussard was having none of that, and he just blasted him.
I'm not taking anything away from Chris Paul. He's been great. But to say he deserves it over Jokic is lunacy. Lunacy, I tell you.
See, right before Nick fired his shots, there was a graphic presented to him comparing CP3 and the Joker. And as you can see, aside from the 0.4 difference in assist, Jokic is clearly better overall than CP3, and yet he still goes on and utters nonsense. Now, in the earlier clip, Nick also said that Chris Paul should have been the MVP because they swept Jokic in the 2021 playoffs. While this was true, let's look at the matchups and roster of both teams in that series. For the Suns, CP3 really did play well in that series, averaging a double-double in points and assists. I mean, I can give credit where credit is due, but I think the main difference here is the supporting cast. See, CP3 had another scorer in Devin Booker, who averaged 25.3 points. He also had the best wing defender in the league at that time, which was Mikal Bridges. And he had DeAndre Ayton, who was, by the way, also averaging a double-double in points and rebounds that series. Now, if we're going to go to the other side and look at the Nuggets, you can see that, although Jokic played really well, he barely had any support compared to CP3. I mean, the second best player after him was not even MPJ. Jamal Murray was out, and then there's Aaron Gordon, averaging just 9 points across 4 games. Sure, the Suns swept them clean, but it doesn't make CP3 a better player individually than Jokic, because the Nuggets were clearly undermanned in this matchup. Anyways, Nick's hate tour of Jokic didn't end there, because last year, he went back at it again.
Then there's the Jokic problem. Guys, I do not hate Nikola Jokic. I have him on the same tier as Kawhi, Ja, and my own son. However,
See, at first, I thought Nick changed his mind about Jokic as he put him in some pretty solid company with Ja, Kawhi, and Luka. However, if we fast forward the clip, we see this. So in Nick's player pyramid, Jokic, along with the rest of the guys earlier, were actually just at the bottom of the rankings. And according to Nick, Jokic was just like the 8th best player in the league last season, behind players like Giannis, LeBron, KD, Embiid, Steph, and his boy, CP3. I mean, the moment I saw this, I was like... If we look back, here were the leading candidates for MVP last season. And based on this graphic, I have no clue where Nick got the idea that CP3 was the 7th best in the league. And what's even more ridiculous is that he's placing him above Jokic once again. But as you can see, the numbers just don't add up for what he's trying to prove. Anyways, since the Suns haven't been as good as last year during the regular season, Nick has kinda pulled the brakes with CP3 for now. But despite this, his narrative about Jokic hasn't changed at all.
Jokic is probably about the 5th, 6th, 7th best player in the league. For me, Giannis, Luka, Steph, Durant, Embiid.
So let me get this straight. The guy has already won back-to-back MVPs, and now he's actually playing better statistically than his previous MVP seasons, averaging almost a triple-double this year, while his team is sitting at the best record in the West. And here you are saying that he's the 7th, 6th, 5th best player in the league right now. I'm just done with this guy. Now, moving on here. Over the last couple of weeks, I've heard a lot of nonsense about Jokic coming from different media sources, but this one specifically has caught my attention.
I'm watching Jokic pass the ball, and I'm watching his guys catch and shoot, no hesitation.
That the reigning 2-time league MVP, who plays for the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, is having his numbers padded? Is that what you're saying?
You heard what the hell I said. I said he had 8 games where he had single-digit shot attempts. And for a while, it was 9.5 assists he was averaging, 9.8. And all of a sudden, I saw those shot attempts and his points go down, and I started to see his assists go up. So listen.
I'm not saying that there's no stat padding going on in the NBA, but saying that Nikola Jokic has been stat padding all year long to boost his numbers so he can get his 3rd MVP is just absolutely ridiculous. Jokic has always been the all-around guy as well as the overall leader for the Nuggets. And with that said, he's got a lot on his plate, such as facilitating, rebounding, and scoring. And of course, his numbers are gonna blow up since he's doing a lot of these things all the time. And another reason why Perk is so wrong with his take is that Jokic has been stuffing the stat sheet in the flow of their offense. See, stat padding is like intentionally missing a rebound or scoring when the game is already decided, just to boost your numbers. But whenever I watch a Nuggets game, I don't see Jokic forcefully kicking out the ball even though he's wide open just to score an assist. We're doing something weird like intentionally missing a point-blank range shot just to get an extra rebound. Everything that Jokic does is in the flow of their offense and within his MO, so I don't really get where Perkins is coming from. And here's some more facts. The Nuggets are actually 27-2 this season. Whenever Jokic registers a triple-double, and regardless of whether he's stat padding on purpose or not, those triple-doubles translate to wins at the end of the day. So you can't argue that he's doing it just for personal gains. Now to support what I just said, here's Draymond chiming in with his take on this.
The whole stat padding thing, accusations that Joker has been facing, I think is ridiculous. I think if you were going to make those about Joker, you had to make those about Russ when Russ was averaging triple-double after triple-double after triple-double. And quite frankly, even if you were going to make those about Russ, I quite frankly don't care, because you know how good you have to be to stat pad and get a triple-double? Like, you still have to be very good to stat pad and get a triple-double. So, like, this whole narrative of like, oh, these guys are stat padding this. Like, if you stat pad it, you still wouldn't get a triple-double. It's not easy to get a triple-double. Stat pad or not. You got to be very, very, very good to stat pad and get a triple-double. And most importantly, win. You can't win like 29 games in a row or 30 games in a row. Again, I didn't check the stats because, quite frankly, I don't care. But you can't win that many games in a row getting a triple-double and only be padding your stats.
Jokic, on the other hand, didn't really care about Perkins' take on him, and when reporters asked him about this, he just trolled them and said,
Cola, what does 100 triple-doubles mean to you?
When you're stat padding, it's easy, so.
You heard that, right? You heard the stat padding stuff out there.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's
What's
true.
your reaction to it?
It's true.
So is that why?
Anyways, aside from his stat padding argument, Perkins pushes his take even further by saying this.
We don't know, but we do know this. Since you do want to bring it up, we do know this, that when it comes to MVP voting, 80% of the voters are white American. 20%
I mean, when his first argument didn't fly, Perk just used the race card in the MVP conversation out of nowhere, which I think is absolutely reckless and quite frankly, dangerous. There is no room for any of that in this game that we all love. With that said, these are just some of the worst takes on one of the greatest players to ever play in Nikola Jokic. We can't wait to see what the narrative is going to be like if he happens to win another MVP. Anyways, what's the dumbest take you guys have ever heard on a player? Let us know in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to click this next one on your screen. Go ahead and click it. It's free.